Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Poz. With me today is a very, very special guest. He is a former AEW World Heavyweight Champion, six-time WWE World Heavyweight Champion, a wrestler, an author, a podcaster, a musician, the demo god, Y2J, the GOAT, Chris Jericho. Chris, welcome into the two-man power trip.
It's a lot of nicknames, isn't it?
Yeah. Too many, maybe?
Never too many. As long as you keep making T-shirts off it, you're fine.
You know what's crazy with you? You know, some guys do too many nicknames and it doesn't get over, or if one doesn't, you hit the mark. It's like 10 for 10, or, you're hitting.
Well, not quite. I mean, most of the time, there's a few that didn't really get through as much as you want, but you never know, what fans are going to respond to. And that's something that's so cool about having fans back, now and getting ready to go back on the road. Actually, I'm leaving later today to go to Miami for the first show that we've had in a different city other than Jacksonville since the beginning of May of last year. So that's the cool thing, is you never really know how people are going to respond and what they're going to connect with. And we'll be able to find that out again. So when you talk about Demo God or Le Champion or those type of things, I mean, had there been no fans, they might not have gotten over as good as they did.
Right, true. It's going to be interesting to see how certain guys react. Online they're like, "Oh, Orange Cassidy's over, Darby Allin's over, MJF is hated." Let's see how it really is in front of the crowd, right? I mean, we're going to really test the crowd.
Well, yeah, and we kind of been doing that. I mean, we've had crowds back since September, but having full crowds and, in different cities is very important, because that's the real kind of litmus test. I feel that we've almost been in a territory for the last year or so to where you're doing, Memphis every Tuesday or whatever it may be, or Calgary every Monday or whatever. So to go out in front of a different city every night, that's kind of where you really get the different reactions, because some cities are more of a heel town. Some cities are more of a babyface town. Some are louder, some aren't as loud, everything in between. So that's part of the fun, is kind of reacting to what the crowd is giving you. And it's not always the same. So that's something that's going to be really, really cool to get back into again. Because you forget almost, 29 years of having crowds, but then 1 year with no crowd. It's like being, an alcoholic. If you don't drink for a year, you kind of forget what it was like to drink. So
right. Yeah.
Here we are getting ready to go back and get drunk on crowds again, I guess you'd say.
I think it's a guarantee the crowd will react to Judas, though, one of the greatest rock songs of our time. And they love sing along with that theme.
Well, that was something funny, too. Like when there was no crowd for 4 or 5 months or even more, I even remember what it was now. The first week they came back, I was like, I hope they remember. Like, what if they forget to do this? And thankfully, they were right into it. But once again, you've had Jacksonville crowds singing this for the last, 6 months or whatever it's been. Now we get to go to Miami and have them sing it, and then go to Texas and Charlotte, or wherever the hell we're going over the next, the next while, everywhere now. So, like I said, it's a real cool homecoming, and it's a real great moment for all of us. It's been a long time coming, and we're excited to get back on the horse again, so to speak.
And I know my buddy Raphael, who works behind the scenes there, he's been helping out, right? Picking the right towns and kind of knowing where to go a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Expertise. That's exactly right.
So with you, wanted to talk about the Complete List of Jericho, your new book. I mean, this is just, if you just look at it, it's just unbelievable what you've done. And basically from a handwritten journal, right? That's kind of how the genesis of it. You had all the matches written down. Just tell us a little bit about the book.
First of all, pick a number between 1 and 2,722.
Yes, which is how many matches are in that book. Let's go 1,001.
All right, 1,001. You look it up here. It's all in order because, like you said, I've kept a log of every match that I've ever had since the first day of October 2nd, 1990. So 1,001. Wow. It was my second match ever in WWE, August 24th, 1999. That was versus the Road Dogg in Kansas City, Missouri. I lost by DQ, and I gave that one 3 stars.
Nice. I think that's the infamous double power bomb through the table.
It is good memory. And it's funny, too, because the first match I ever had in WWE, which I just found out through this book, is against the Big Boss Man in Winnipeg. That was my first WWE match, and coincidentally was my 1,000th ever pro wrestling match. And that's the cool thing about this book, is I can go through and find out every match I've ever had where it was, when it was. I gave it a star rating every night. I kept track of the money for the first probably 600 of them or so, or 800 of them, until I started making guaranteed money to where it's the same every week. And it's just, I don't think there's ever anybody that's done that before, especially with the career that I had of going 30 years around the world. So it really is a journal, a handwritten journal that basically, I mean, if you haven't seen the book, you can see right here at the very front cover, that's the actual page right there that I wrote all.
Yep.
That's my actual writing. That's the first page ever. And that we kind of made that part of the book as well in my actual handwriting, etc. So it is something that once again, having written 4 books before, the first 3 were kind of more autobiographical. The 4th one was kind of more of a self-help book. What can I do next? And I thought, well, coming up my 30-year anniversary, it's the perfect time to kind of, not just collect, because I have them all collected, but give them to somebody. In this case, it was Alex Marvez, and say, take this and put it into a computer. Because for years I was always scared, like, what if I lose this book? Or what if there's a fire or something? All of this history would be gone. Because another thing too about this is you can start your wrestling career today, for example, go 30 years and do a book like this, because everything is documented. You go to cagesideseats.com or cage, whatever the hell it is.
Cage Match, yeah.
Cagematch.com, and you can find every match from everybody. Problem is, for the first, 7, 8 years of my career, pre-internet, there is no real records of the matches I had in Mexico or Germany or Japan or Canadian Indies, Smoky Mountain, ECW. You might be able to find it, but those first 6 years you definitely can't. And I have all of that. So this is kind of like from a guy who started 1 foot in the old school, and here I am now 1 foot in kind of the way the business is now. If Bret Hart would have done this, or Ric Flair or Shawn Michaels, it would be kind of the same, crossing the plane of what wrestling was and is. But they didn't do that, and I did. And I think I'm kind of the last of my breed that was able to do this. And that's why this book is almost more of a history book as much as it is a Chris Jericho book.
Yeah, that's awesome. I probably should have said 1004, since you're the master of 1004 holds. I just loved, like, you put all that together. You know what I mean? Like, that you not had the foresight to say you were going to do this, but that you always were writing down, like Foley too, like you're writing stuff down, and Brett to some extent. I mean, that's pretty amazing. And some of your payoffs are in there, who you wrestled, what day. I mean, yeah. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it wasn't so much writing stories. It was just like, I talk about it in the forward of the book, and I've told the story before, but my first day of wrestling camp, Keith Hart was there at Hart Brothers, basically just to collect the money, and asked if anybody had any questions. And I just was wondering, how many matches have you had, Keith? And he said, I don't know. That's a stupid question, because no one keeps track of things like that. And I thought, well, that's weird to me, because if I want to know how many games Wayne Gretzky's played in the NHL, I can go to the library. There's an old reference, and look in a book. And I thought, well, I don't know if I'm going to have 1 match or 1,000 or 2,722 at the time, but I'm going to keep a list of every one, and we'll see what happens. And it just became a habit. And there was a time when Cage Match came out, that probably 2015 or 16, I did stop physically writing down, because I said, well, it's all in there anyways. And so that was part of Alex's research, that he had to go grab those extra. It was probably only about 100 matches or so at that point, but I had them all documented. Not ever thinking I'd do a book with it. I remember when we came out with the first book with The Lion's Tale, I was thinking maybe doing like an appendix, like the end of the book. Here's every match I've ever had, which would have taken, 500 pages or something. Right. So I'm glad that I saved it for this, because I was able to do it right. Because it's not just a book of every match. We have the top 10 lists in there, and we have, the comments from all the different, people that I've worked with over the years, and, hundreds of over 100 pictures that you've never seen before. So it really is kind of more of a, like I said, a celebration of my career for one, over these 30 years. And then this, kind of history book, where if you want to know what Mexico was like in the early 90s, I have all of this, you know what I mean? So I have all of it documented.
It's awesome. It's just, I don't know, it's so cool. Like, being a big wrestling fan and being able to kind of relive a lot of that stuff too, man. Like, I used to love, and just two words that got over big time, and I still say today. And I actually talked to him last week, and I mentioned it to him. I said, two words for you, Dean: Stinko, Malenko. And he obviously he remembered. I was just like, man, just going back and reliving that feud. I mean, it really, really awesome stuff to be able to do that.
Well, and like I said, that's the thing about it, and if you're familiar with my career, all those moments are in there. And like I said, to me, once again, if when I wanted to do this book, the publishers that I had been working with were like, nah, it's too specific and it's too, you're whittling. I can't remember what this, too direct of a book or whatever it may be. And I was like, you guys don't know my fan base and don't know wrestling fans. And you should know this after 4 New York Times bestsellers. I mean, you should follow my instinct here. And they weren't into it. And I thought, okay, great, I'll do it myself. And here I am, in just 2 weeks today, I think it is. We've already sold out half the first printing, thousands and thousands and thousands of books. And it's like, they're already talking about a second printing. And once again, it's like, I know when I'm right, and I knew this would work, and I knew it was right. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy to think 4 bestsellers are not going to trust your instinct on that one, because your fan base better than anybody. And I just thought, man, this has money written all over it. Great idea. I was kind of wondering why it didn't get published by the normal publishers. Like, how come you went in that?
That's why.
Direction.
That's exactly why. And then once I found out that they didn't want to do it, then I started looking into self-publishing. And now it's like they kind of shot themselves in the foot, because there's no reason for me to ever work with a publisher again. If I can get these types of results just on my own, it's just way easier to do and way more financially viable. I mean, all of the promotion is in-house. It's me. And like I said, I don't ever have a problem just doing things myself if that's the case. And this is one of those cases.
And obviously it's going well. I mean, you said you're going to have to do a second printing. You guys are rocking and rolling. You guys are dominating.
Yeah, exactly. And once again, we had a big long pre-sale because, originally we started talking about this last October, but with COVID and things changed and pushed it back, but it did come out in June. So there's a lot of people that were waiting for their books and we're excited to get it. I think there's a lot of people probably thought it was just a figment of my imagination because we've been talking about it for so long, but it worked out and it's done. And like I said, I'm very, very happy and proud of it. And like I said, there's never been a book like this in wrestling, and there never will be. And actually, if you look behind me over the title right there, you'll see a Rush book.
Yeah.
And that really kind of hammered it home that my book would work, because that has every gig that Rush ever played and every set list and all the technical information. It's like, who the fuck would want to buy this? And it's like, okay, yeah, if you're a Rush fan, you'd want to buy it, but I'm just a fan of rock and roll. And I just love, I haven't read the whole thing, nor you'd be crazy to read the whole thing, but I'm sure there's Rush fans that have read the whole thing. And this book kind of falls in line with that. There are fans that will read every single, match in here. And there'll be other ones who will see a Jericho match. Oh, Jericho versus The Rock, at the Royal Rumble in January of 01. I remember that. Let me go see what match that was for Chris and what he thought about it, and maybe thumb through it and find it. Like, this is something you can read for the rest of your life.
And get your star rating, because I'm not going to watch that one. He thought that one stunk, or oh wow, he gave that one a few stars.
Yeah, and once again, these aren't Dave Meltzer star ratings. These are my star ratings. These just I had seen an early version of The Observer back in 1990, and there were star ratings in it. I thought, well, I like that idea, so I'll just do a star rating for every one of my matches. So this has nothing to do with anybody else's thoughts on the match other than me. There's some matches in here that I love that the press hated. I don't care. I still gave it a good rating. There's other ones that I wasn't so cool with that other people thought was great. It didn't matter because it's my opinion and my opinion only.
Yep. Man, just going back and just thinking about some of those matches, some of those feuds, and I mentioned before with Malenko. I loved your feud with Malenko in WCW. Man, I went back recently with Kevin Sullivan. We were watching Slamboree '98. The pop when Malenko takes off the Cyclope mask and beats you, just awesome stuff. And I would be awesome just kind of go through the book, like, what match was that? Oh, and kind of relive it. I mean, that's really cool, and see what you thought about it, because I know listening to it, one of the loudest pops I've heard, which is crazy.
Well, and that's the thing. And then you can find in here like my top 10 opponents in WCW, my top 10 opponents in WWE, my top 10 opponents in Japan or Mexico. You probably haven't even heard of some of these guys, and then we went and got, Fumi Saito, who's kind of the Dave Meltzer of Japan. And there's one of the cats like that from Mexico, and they give their favorite matches and moments from Japan and Mexico. And I've got it from AEW and I've got it from WWE. And it's just a real cool cross section of my entire career encapsulated in this book. That, like I said, like whether you like Jericho or don't like Jericho or think I'm the greatest or think that was okay or anything in between, I think people that are real students of this business, and as we get further and further along with internet and you know, all of the information available, there's a lot of people out there that are very much students of this business and are very much interested in all of the history for it. And like I said, I've got a time frame here that really you can't find anywhere else. You'll never find what was going on in CMLL in 1993 in Mexico, like I can tell you, or what was happening in Japan and WAR in 94 or ECW in 95. Like I said, you might find more of that because it's more in the States, but you're not going to find it with the detail that I have here. And then not even touching all the WWE and AEW and New Japan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Man, I'm such a big fan. Like, you know, you see so much on TV, but then those matches you don't know of, like you mentioned, like, oh, let's check out the War promotion. Oh, when did he wrestle Ultimo Dragon? You know, like stuff like that is really cool. Oh, let's go back to ECW. When did he wrestle Shane? Or, you know, like I love that kind of stuff. Like, because I remember like Ludwig Borg, you know, he's in New Japan. Like, oh, let me check cage match, see who he wrestled, when when he wrestled Hercules.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of stuff. I love that stuff.
No, exactly, and that's the thing that. Once again, it's just a moment in time captured by me just wanting to see how many matches I had. So, like I said, I think just by the reaction from everybody, from what people have been telling me, you know, and like I said, if you just go through to, I don't know, oh, here's one, my top 10 duds.
Oh,
the
wow.
worst
Okay.
matches I ever had, you know, or then we have match notes. This is crazy. I just opened to this page and I didn't have anything in there. Okay, so that's Brody Lee, right?
Yep.
And I had written a bunch about Brody because I had worked with Brody in 2015, probably 30 times. I was just doing house shows. And the last night he was ever in AEW before he went home, Alex Marvez got a story from him for this book. And then we never saw him again. You know, unfortunately, he passed away. But like kind of the last recorded interview with Brody is for this book. And so there's a lot of kind of really special things that are like that, you know, and my top 10 strangest merch items, you know, that sort of stuff. So anyways, it's a really cool kind of 30-year celebration of Chris Jericho's career, along with the history book, Jericho30.com. If you want to check it out, you can do that, but you can't find it in stores, like I said, because I had to publish it myself, but that hasn't seemed to matter with most people.
No, they'll find a way to get it and they'll love it. But who's the favorite feud, though? I mean, everyone kind of thinks Shawn Michaels is the top feud. Is that the favorite feud of all time?
It's one of them. I mean, it's right up there, man. I mean, Shawn has to be up there. I go more of storylines. Like the storyline with Shawn was great. I loved wrestling with Ultimo Dragon. I love the storyline with Rey Mysterio, the storyline with Kevin Owens. I love the storyline with Jon Moxley that we did in AEW. I love the storyline we're doing right now with the Inner Circle, which is pretty crazy. That's been going on for 9 months now, and we're still in the thick of it. So to me, it's always about the storytelling that you have, the beginning, the middle, and the end. But the Shawn one definitely is up there, along with all those other ones that I just mentioned to you.
And the kind of the one that got away was the WCW one against Goldberg, aka Greenberg. I mean, that was great
too. And Bill just didn't want to do that at the time, and you know that's been long documented too. But that was me just trying to get some stuff going and trying to be entertaining, even though I wasn't really being given too much. But that story was a lot of fun too. It just never had a payoff. You know, the idea was for Goldberg to beat me, and it never happened. So I think he did beat me a couple years later when he came to WWE. But at the moment in time in WCW had gone by then. Yep.
Now, as far as you and just your career and your legacy, I think when people think about you, GOAT definitely comes up. A lot of people always say, is he the best ever? The longevity to different careers, able to change it up, able to kind of do the Painmaker thing, even go to New Japan and change it up. What's the legacy of Chris Jericho when you think about it? What is your legacy?
You know, GOAT is such a thrown around word right now. And it's funny because I started using that in 2016 when I came back and no one even really knew what it was. I got it from a rap song. I remember Vince was like, why are you calling yourself a GOAT? I'm like, well, it's the greatest of all time. I was like, I wish it was a better name, like a bear, like the bear or, you know, or the rhino, but the GOAT kind of sounds dopey. But now, of course, everyone uses it. And I don't know, that's not for me to say, oh, I'm the GOAT. But if other people say it, it's much appreciated. Thank you. What I think I am one of the GOATs of is longevity and not diversity. That's not the word I'm looking for, but always kind of keeping relevancy, and also just always evolving. The goat of evolving. Like David Bowie might not be the greatest singer of all time, but he is the goat of always changing his character and keeping it fresh and evolving into something different but still being David Bowie at the root of it. And I think it's the same for Chris Jericho, in that I always do change things. And I just saw something the other day of like 12 different Jerichos on this picture. And it's like, if you wanted to dress as Jericho on Halloween, you have 12 different options at least. And I don't think too many other wrestlers can say that. So if you want to talk about a GOAT, in my opinion, that's one of the things that I've done almost better than anybody else, is constantly evolve and change, to never be a nostalgia act. I never wanted to be that. I always wanted to have a new album to go out and tour on, and not just keep relying, on the stuff that I had done in the past. And I always knew when it was time. I knew it was time to ditch Y2J in 07 when I came back. It just didn't work anymore. I knew it was time to switch things up. When the Pinnacle beat us down, you get rid of the sunglasses and the flashy sequin jackets, and what's next? Okay, we'll be back in black. Let's come back in black. And now it's more of a dark based black type of a look. And it's subtle, but it's something that people can go, oh, okay, this look is different from this look. And this attitude is different from that attitude. And I think it's something that people will pick up on it, but you have to lead them down that path and let them know this is a different guy. This is now a baby face. This is now a heel. This is now somebody who's gone to another company, or someone who has gone to a different country. Like, there always has to be something a little bit twisted and different about it to keep people's attention and to keep yourself relevant.
Is that an AC/DC thing, the Back in Black? Is that what you were going for there? You want it to be like, obviously when they return, Bon Scott passes, Brian Johnson comes, they do the Back in Black. And
yeah, I mean, we actually tried to get Back in Black for our return promo.
Wow.
After we attacked the Pinnacle in our dressing room, and they wouldn't even give us the time of day. I mean, there's been other ones that, like, we wanted Van Halen right after Eddie died. We wanted to use Running with the Devil, and they came back with $500,000. And I was like, well, that's just a polite way of saying no fucking way. AC/DC didn't even come back with that, but yet I see them on an Applebee's commercial using Back in Black. So I guess they're fans of the baby back ribs or something like that. But I just thought the whole concept of Back in Black, that fit. It's a saying that everybody knows. It rolls off the tongue, and it fit kind of the mindset of what we're doing. We're coming back more focused, serious, and darker, and that's kind of how it's been throughout this whole return.
And speaking of AC/DC, I think Brian Johnson is also frontman, but so are you for Fozzy. I've seen Fozzy a few times in concert. What's going on with them? You guys are touring again?
Getting ready to tour, but I mean, there's a lot going on. I mean, our new single, Sane, just cracked the top 30 after 2 weeks. It's our highest debuting single ever and the most added single ever in the history of the band. So who knows how high it's going to go. And it's perfect timing for this new tour that we're doing in September. We're actually going out next week to do some festivals. I mean, everybody's back, man. It's like I said, we're going to Miami this week, and then next week it's somewhere in Iowa. Then there's Wisconsin, and then there's actually, coincidentally, a festival in Jacksonville that we're playing. So it really is a good time to be back. And I think there's a lot of bands that probably have done new records over the pandemic because there really wasn't a lot to do. And now that we're getting ready to go back out on tour again, everybody's excited about that. And everyone's excited to put out some new music and get back out on the road. And that's what we're doing.
Years ago at Gramercy Theater, I remember saw Fozzy. You guys were awesome. And me and my brother still laugh about it to this day. I say, hey, is God Pounds and Nails on the set list? You're like, it's not. But since you mentioned it, I'm going to put it on there. Me and my brother still laugh about it. We're like, what a great worker.
Yeah, that one's not on the set anymore. But just because you asked for it, no. Yeah, Gramercy is great. Last time we played there, we sold it out. And we don't have New York on this upcoming run because New York is one of the states that was slower in opening up, So we always love playing New York. We've probably played it more than any other city in the world, and we're excited to go back soon.
Anywhere in Jersey coming up?
Nowhere in Jersey. So Jersey, New York, kind of East Coast, West Coast, we're a little bit more reticent. So it's much more kind of in the Midwest and all that sort of area.
And the podcast, want to mention that Talk is Jericho, baby. What's going on with anything good and exciting? I know you always have great guests.
It's all good and exciting, man. Come on, John. I'm going to say, no, there's nothing good and exciting happening.
That's boring this week.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Like I said, I kind of got into that early on. 2013 is when I started, and I was able to carve a niche out for myself very quickly and very early. Now that literally is, as you know, I think over 1 million podcasts, and that's not exaggeration. That is legit number. So it's one of those things where I had a fan base early on and was able to keep it and develop it. And I mean, the show just keeps growing. So it's a good place to be. I mean, the hardest thing is just now the pandemic is done. During pandemic, a lot of stuff really wasn't happening. There wasn't a lot of people doing stuff. So now there is, and there's always guests to be had. You got to be creative sometimes, but now I'm looking forward to people going out and promoting stuff. We're like, oh, so-and-so wants to do your show, or this guy wants to do your show, or that guy wants to do your show. And not that I didn't have that, but there'll be a lot more of it now. Like I said, because everyone's back on the road again, man.
Yeah, definitely. Now, as we head towards the finish here, give us one last push for the book of why everybody should get it and where they can get it.
Well, I think we discussed it in the most. It really is, like I said, it's a history book combined with, the fifth in the Jericho series. So if you like the way that I write my books and construct them, you have a little bit of that, but mostly it is just this really cool journal, once again, of every match that I've ever had, and comments about a lot of them, and the top 10 lists and all the stuff that I mentioned earlier in the show. And I did self-publish it, like I said. So people say, when is it available in the UK? Like now. Like, when's it available in Zimbabwe? Now. When's it available next door? Now. Like, that's the only way is Jericho30.com. So it won't be in bookstores. It's on sale now via Jericho30.com, like I said. So I'm really proud of it because, like I said, I don't think there's anybody else that can go back and find any number of matches. I'll pick one. Match number 422. Let's see where that is. I mean, there's nobody that can go back, and I like picking the earlier ones because they're a little bit more obscure. Match number 422 was March 26, 1995. I worked with Masao Orihara. I won with a lion salt in Tokyo. I made $368, and that was a 2.5-star match in front of about 7,500 people. So I would assume that was a sumo arena show. So I can go back and find all that information here. And, like I said, it's just a really cool kind of trip through the past leading up to the future and all the cool things that I got to do as a result of that.
You make an awesome drinking game out of it too. Like, I'm going to guess.
Yeah, exactly. Sure.
501. He wrestled, Jushin Thunder Liger. Nope.
That's right. Exactly.
But where can everybody find you? You got Quarantine. You got Fozzy. You've got your Talk is Jericho. You got Winnipeggers. Where can everybody find what you're doing? And
just
social media,
man. You know how to do it. Come on. What do you want me to say?
Well, what's your Twitter handle and your social media?
Oh, you'll find it. Just Google it. You'll find that and put it up on the thing right here.
Yes.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah. All right.
That's the easiest way to do it because no one's going to remember anyways. Right.
Right. That's true. But Chris, it's been an honor. Thank you so much for all the time. And everybody get that book, The Complete List of Jericho. Awesome book. Chris, thank you so much for all the time.
I finally got to be in the 2-man power trip. I never realized that I was the other man. So
yes, second man.
You.
Now and forever.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it, man.
Yep.
Take care.
Take care.